Welcome to episode 30 of Behind the Shield. Today we are joined by head men's lacrosse coach Brandon Childs. Hello again, everybody. Scott Geis joining you again for another episode. Glad to have you this week. We get to talk to Coach Childs about a bunch of things, losing his season last year, his relationship with the players, and how important culture is in the York College men's lacrosse program. So after this commercial message, head coach Brandon Childs.
The results are in, and it's clear that our Spartan family really showed their love for York College this YCP Day of Giving. You played an integral role in helping us reach new heights. Thank you for your generosity. Gifts from donors like you make a difference in the lives of our students every single day. Your continued support is so important. Because YCP is a nonprofit, so much of the York College experience is a direct result of the generosity of our donors. This year's Day of Giving created opportunities for every current and future student by providing funding for scholarships, academic areas, and student life that tuition alone cannot cover. Thank you to the entire Spartan family, alumni, current students, parents, and friends of the college. We couldn't have done it without you.
Welcome back to episode 30 of Behind the Shield. Today, we welcome Brandon Childs, head men's lacrosse coach. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Scott.
You just said you got back from meeting with the team. I'm sure it was great to get to see the guys and get to see them for the first time since March.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we all do it, is to be with those guys, and it's been far too long. So, yeah, typical summer break, I'm chomping at the bit. So now, having it been since March, we were certainly excited to all be back together and get to work again.
So, first question we'll go is, what have you been up to for the last 5 months since March? I know you said it's been a lot different and a little bit challenging. How have you managed to keep yourself busy?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first and foremost, like when you are hit with any kind of adversity, you take care of the 6 feet in front of you, and the 6 feet in front of me is 4 little kids. So it was just a whole lot of trying to provide routine and rhythm and making sure our kids, my own children, are in a good place. So my wife and I have spent tons of time together and with our kids, and there's been a lot of silver linings through all of this, and spending as much time as I have with my family is certainly one of them.
Yeah, is it a blessing? Because honestly, during the springtime when you guys are playing, you're not probably home as much as you would like to be. Was it great to just get to spend some time with them that you probably never would have gotten to otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of, when you have little kids, there's milestones that are happening all the time.
Yeah.
And I think it's a step further than just being there to see them versus being a part of them. And I think that's what I would say is it was kind of neat being a part of some of those milestones, maybe with the littler ones that I wasn't necessarily a part of with the older ones because of some work requirements and things like that. And then there was just, things like birthdays and, kind of easier to be around when you weren't allowed to go anywhere else on certain, days that mean a lot to them that maybe you would have missed out on in the past too. So, but no, it was definitely one of the positives to all of this. So.
Let's go back to last spring. You've played 5 or 6 games, and you're kind of starting to get into the heart of your season, and boom, all of a sudden it's over. How difficult was it to be with your team and know once the ruling came down that you guys were going to be done? How hard was that to see your guys and know that your season was over?
Yeah, I've always said I haven't always said this to the team, but over the last several years, I've mentioned to the team that my worst nightmare is to watch the selection show for the NCAA tournament and then not be picked, and then have our season end in a team meeting, and that's essentially what happened, just without the selection show. And so it was definitely tough. I guess nightmarish. In terms of what a coach, sees the season ending. You want your season to end on the field, and you want to feel as though you had something to do about it, the way it all went down, and you can kind of live with the outcomes if you were participating, and so to have it end in a way that was so out of any of our hands was was challenging. There's no doubt about it. I'm really proud of the way that our guys kind of responded to it all. And I admire them for it. And I think we have a pretty resilient group, and they certainly showed it, in March and April, that's for sure.
You're a relationship guy, and you always seem to have a great relationship with your guys, no matter freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors. But it seems like you always have cultivated a really special relationship with your seniors by the time they get to that point. Was it more challenging? Because normally I've seen you have those conversations with guys on the field after their careers end. Was it difficult to see this group not be able to kind of finish the job in a way, and have to see them lose or you see their careers come to an end not on the field?
Yeah, I mean, when it happens on the field, it happens also fast, and you don't think you're going to lose the last game, and so your mindset's not even there, and then the horn goes off, and then it just hits you like a ton of bricks. This was like, it happened pretty quick, but it was still such a gradual. I mean, at first there was hope we might be able to come back, and then so on and so forth. This, more so than anything else, we handled collectively. I think with the seniors, you end up, I don't know, it's more of like an individual kind of get through the end of it together kind of thing, whereas this was just collective, and we only had 5 of them, so maybe that had something to do with it. But I feel like we met as a group. I talked to them on the phone. Throughout the quarantine, at times we would check in with each other and things like that. So I don't know, I guess we just kind of got through it collectively, and it was different. Obviously, I wish I could go back in time and make some changes that this didn't happen, but at the end of the day, it did. I'm proud of the way they responded to it, and I think in a weird way, it'll probably make my relationship with this group that just graduated much stronger, and definitely withstand the test of time. That's for sure.
Your culture in your program is so very important, like it is to a lot of programs. How were you able to establish that when you came to York, and how have you worked to continue to have that culture that you have that is so important to your program?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, the way you worded it is as if when we got here, we implemented it right away and we kind of had it all figured out. When in reality, like we made tons of changes as a staff when we first got here. And so I guess we were building a culture, but it wasn't communicated well by the staff, and it wasn't laid out in kind of its simplest form. I think culture is like such a buzzword that lacks a little like general definition to it. I think culture often gets confused with like quotes and sayings and slogans on the back of t-shirts, and you put your hand in and you say family and all that kind of stuff. But that doesn't tell the story. I believe cultures are your actions, like your behaviors show what your culture is, and then your behaviors, if they're good or bad, determine the outcome, the results of your games. And so the culture has to be the driving point of everything, because if you have a definable culture, then you have good actions. You have good actions, you're going to win games. And so we try not to be result driven. And when I first got here, yeah, we were doing some things behind the scenes in the locker room and stuff, I guess, to improve the culture. But we did film sessions to get better at how we were going to defend the pick. We did film sessions on our opponents as to how we were going to stop them, and we were very schematic when it came to us and our team. We're in the same room, we're on the field, we're in the locker room. It was always like scheme and lacrosse. And after the 2017 team season, I just realized, like, man, I've been coaching the heck out of lacrosse, but I have not been coaching the heck out of culture. And I just made the assumption, because we had a lot of great kids in our program, that the culture would kind of form its own thing and take its own flight. But I realized from the help of someone else that that aligning your guys in the same direction matters more than your pick defense does. So if you can get 40 guys all aligned in the same direction, then your pick defense matters, or your man up play matters. And if you don't, then none of those schemes matter. And so we decided going into the 2018 season to start putting first things first, which was culture and everything else. And now we have a whole blueprint, 3 core principles, and 3 actions to each of those that will give us the behaviors that we think can help us win.
Does that drive recruiting then, that culture, that idea that you're looking for a guy that fits in with your culture? And also, obviously, he has to be a good lacrosse player, but there's probably you've had some guys that are really good lacrosse players that just weren't going to fit in with what you do. How important is that when you're recruiting?
Yeah, well, so you said I probably look for guys that fit our culture. I'm glad you asked this question because that's actually where we went wrong. Is we looked for guys that fit our culture, and then if they chose to come here, we just kind of assumed it would all work out. Now what we do in recruiting is we kind of challenge them, like we come after them about the culture, and we spend more time talking about culture than anything else, and we challenge them and we ask them questions, and we ask their coach questions and things of that nature, to make sure that we're not saying serve, work, and be humble because it's a slogan. Like, I'm telling you that these are prerequisites and they're non-negotiables, that if you come here and you're not willing to serve others, work hard, or be humble, then we're not willing to take you in this recruiting class. And so it's become a different kind of dialogue than it once was, where we thought like we had watched enough or kind of gotten to know a kid enough or whatever that he fit the culture. We said, okay, well, it's one thing to, the way I would word it to you, Scott, is like, it's one thing to be selfless. It's another thing to like applaud selflessness. So it's like, we need you to get excited about serving other people, not just serve other people. Like, we need it to be a rewarded behavior here. And so if you're not willing to serve, you're not going to have a whole lot of friends, and it's not going to work out. You know, if you're not willing to serve, you're not going to get a whole lot of playing time, and it's not going to work out. And so we reward the behaviors in our culture. And so it's got to mean a lot to you, not just something that you do. So
Is it that important for you? Because obviously that's how you want to run your program, but you have 40, 45 guys. That's a lot of guys to buy into what you're doing. Is it make it that even that much more important that you're able to get guys that are going to be willing to do that?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I believe that our culture is as strong as the weakest behaviors in our program. So over the last couple of years, I think our culture has gotten stronger and stronger, and not necessarily because our top behavior has gotten any stronger. I believe in 2011, our top behavior on our program doesn't look any different than our top behavior in our program looks right now. But what's happened is those weak behaviors, those bottom behaviors have gotten better and better and better over the time. And that's why I think our culture is a tad bit stronger now than it once was. And so it's really important that all 45 guys, regardless of where they fall on the depth chart or their roles or class rank, there's no hierarchy. There can't be any hierarchy when you're a team. And so the behavior of your freshman is no less important than the behavior of your senior, and the behavior of your, and maybe behavior is not the right word, actions. The actions of your freshmen should be no less significant than the actions of your seniors, and your starters' actions should be no more significant than your role players.
Talk a little bit about the concept of servant leadership. I know we've talked about it in the office, but let people know why that's part and a very important part of your program. You talk about service. What is that leadership like for you and your program?
Yeah, I mean, well, we definitely, I mean, I think that's, you know, I'm not so good at this. Like, I don't claim to be a great leader. So this isn't me saying that, I want to be clear that like the players that we've had that have been our leaders are far better leaders than I am. So, no, that being said, like, I believe that our leader, our captain, needs to serve everybody else first and foremost. And if you do that, you'll gain respect and trust, which then actually allows you to lead. You can't really lead without the truth and honesty, and the truth and honesty hurts quite a bit. It's like sometimes the truth, when you're told the truth about your work ethic or your actions, behavior, whatever, isn't necessarily doesn't always feel so good. So whoever's delivering that truth to you, you better have respect for and you better trust. And there's no better way, in my opinion, to gain trust and respect than serving other people. And so you need your captain or your leader to serve others first, so that there creates a trust and a bond that then when you have to get real with them, they're willing to accept that and then use it for growth. So that's why it's very important in terms of like being a server. If you want to lead here, I just believe it's the best way to serve. And we've had some really good ones, and it's something that really gets promoted, and guys want to be that guy, you know. And I think that's the that's the difference, the differentiator when it comes to leadership, maybe in our program, is like, our captain isn't the guy that, like, picks his jersey first and eats first after games and goes out and does the coin toss and then delegates responsibilities to the freshmen. Our captain eats last, picks his jersey number last, carries the ball bucket so the freshmen don't have to. And so we've been able to make this switch where the guys are desiring to be the guy that serves instead of desiring to be the guy that, quote unquote, has the spotlight on them. So.
Let's switch gears a little bit. One of the things I think you've been blessed with is having some great assistant coaches. Talk about how important those guys are, especially, for a team that's as big as yours, for a team that has separate, specialty units, offense, defense, face-offs, goalies. How important it is to have a group of guys that you really can trust and delegate to and give them responsibilities within the team concept.
Yeah. Oh, man. I'm glad you asked this, because they get so overlooked and oftentimes underappreciated that for you to even have like the thought to ask a question about these guys is pretty unique. Not too many times do I get asked about the assistant coaches. So I'm glad you're asking. I mean, they're so important, and they're so important for so many reasons. I mean, I'd be remiss not to start with the fact that my family means a lot to me, and there's lots of them. And so I need to be able to delegate, like you said, and trust responsibilities to my assistants and know that they're going to get done the way in which I would have done them myself. And we've had assistants that played for me, and I used to think like, man, I just got to get guys that played here so that I can trust them or know them. But then we've had guys from the outside come in that were assistants that if you were an outsider and you observed it, you wouldn't be able to know which of my assistants played here and which of my assistants, weren't alums. And so I guess, again, it comes down to the alignment to our culture. And just the same as when I'm recruiting someone to be on our team, I try to convey the importance of culture and challenge them. Like, are you this or are you not? And make sure that, again, I like the unapologetic prerequisite is what I call it. And the same is going to be true for anybody we bring in as an assistant coach. And of the three, service and working hard and being humble, like, being an assistant coach is, you're never going to have to be more sacrificial and work harder for less compensation than being an assistant coach in college athletics. And so they're not doing it because of pay or anything else. They're doing it for some other reason. And I think here, the assistants that I've been blessed to have, the two reasons that I think, without giving this enough thought, the first two reasons that come out to me is the guys in the team and wanting so much for them, and then just our program and wanting so much for, I guess, the brand, you could call it.
Your kid, you talk about your family and how important they are. How great is it to be able to have your kids be around guys who can be great role models for them, whether it be their assistant coaches or the player, more so the players? I see your kids all the time at practice or after games. How important to that for you is for them to be able to have such great role models and have them be around a lot?
Yeah, I'm going to scoot back and turn my lights on because we're green here at York College, so my lights just turned off. So now we can answer that question. I want you to be able to see me. You hit the nail on the head. I was actually joking with one of my coworkers yesterday because he needs some handiwork done at his house. I said there's two benefits to working at a college. One is if you surround yourself with the right college kids, then your own children end up with role models. And the second is if there's something at your house that's broken and you don't know how to fix it, there's someone at the college that's probably willing to fix it for you. So your question was of the first, and yeah, I mean, I've gotten to the point. I think I've always tried to do this, but I've gotten to the point more recently that if there comes a difficult decision that needs to be made, whether it's a recruiting decision or on the field decision, off the field culture, whatever, I often try to, like, the best example I could give you is like the reclassing and the fifth years and everybody getting the year back from the pandemic. And, as a coach, like, how do we want to handle the fifth years and the transfer portal? Like, how do we want to do all of this? And if you look through it through the lens of winning the national championship, you may see all of that differently than you look through it the lens of my son as a York lacrosse team player. And I try to remove myself from the what decision today is going to help us win the national championship? And then I try to put myself in the mindset of what decision do I want to see made today that if my son was in that program, I'd sign off and say, that's exactly how I would have done it. And so that's really helpful on top of everything else is like, and then ultimately what ends up happening is I just always will be able to look back and say, hey, are the behaviors of our teams, the actions of our teams, the recruits and who we're bringing in, are they people that I want my own sons to grow up to be like, or that I would want my daughter to grow up and marry or whatever. And they do, they kind of serve sometimes when you can get like result focused on things. If you can kind of see it all through the eyes of your own children and, you know, kind of their happiness, it can help you as well as, you know, all the benefits of just having, you know, 40 big brothers.
No, I think it's been a blessing. You know, clearly I've been here a long time and I've had my son to be able to grow up around some great people. And yeah, I don't think there's any substitute for that at all. What is the one thing that you look back in your time at York now that you're most proud that you've accomplished? And it doesn't necessarily have to be something on the field. Maybe it is. But as you look back, what are some of the things you go, man, I'm glad we were able to accomplish that, or I'm glad we were able to achieve that. And I'm glad we are where we're at with our program.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't want to just give you like the cliche answer and just, I'm trying to think of a good answer to that question. The thing that kind of pops into my mind is like, sometimes when you accomplish wins or All-Americans or awards and championships and stuff, like they give you a certificate or there's a press release or you're interviewed. So it's like, it's so apparent that you've just accomplished something. I think there's this other sense of accomplishment that happens as a coach where you get a text message, like on Father's Day, like one of your players text message you and says, Happy Father's Day to you. Or you're scrolling through social media or something and you see a picture of one of them had a baby or they got married and, you know, all the groomsmen are teammates. It's like, it's kind of like a series of all those kinds of things that just kind of hit you when you're not expecting them. You know, you're driving somewhere and your phone blows up and it's one of your guys just saying, hey coach, I haven't talked to you in a while. You know, I just wanted to say hello, you know, like to me, like, again, you said it earlier, like the relationships at the end of the day, I guess are what means the most to me. I'm trying not to speak into cliche. So therefore the really, really like strong relationships that I know, are going to like, those are going to be our best accomplishments. So to give concrete examples, years ago, we had an alum in the class of 2016 that after he graduated came to an amusement park with my family on my son Will's birthday. That's one of my greatest accomplishments that I don't even really know how it happened, but it happened. You know, and so it's like weird things like that where it's like, man, like, you know, this guy didn't get a lot of playing time. He was a role player on the field, but the relationship was able to withstand the depth chart to where it exists years after graduation. And we've become friends, you know, like, so I don't know, like without being too sappy about it all, I guess I'd say like that's my, you know, kind of my proudest accomplishments. It's just not the relationship necessarily with me. I use that example because you asked me the question, but when you look and see the relationships that those guys have, and you just know that you did a job well done if those relationships with each other have withstand the test of time and they're relying on them in times like a pandemic where those relationships and those phone calls that they can make when they're having a bad day are still there for them, you know, years and years later.
It's all about relationships. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's human connection. It's being able to be together. You know, I think that's what made part of this pandemic so tough is you didn't get the contact that you normally got with other people. I think that's a pretty clear indication now that we're all now back together.
Yeah.
I'd like to move it for the end. Let's move it back to the field. Talk about joining the MAC. Obviously, you've been in a conference since the time you've been here of, you know, high caliber. Salisbury, you know, Christopher Newport's been up and coming. Mary Washington's had really good teams. Basically all the teams in the conference at one point in time have been very good. It's going to be a little different than the MAC. How's that transition going to be for you, and what are you expecting out of it as we move into the MAC this spring?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think when change happens, whether in this instance you're asking me about conference change, but if like they're changing the rules, like the face-off gets changed a lot in lacrosse. Like every 2 years there's a new face-off rule, or they're adding a shot clock, or they're adding a clearing clock, or whenever change happens, I think the first thing you have to do is remove your green covered glasses or whatever that expression is. Essentially, take your own opinions of how it benefits you out of it, and then how is this for the best of everyone. And when I think about the MAC move, I think you can check both boxes. I mean, first and foremost, for our athletic department to move into the MAC, it did a lot of things for a lot of people that aren't the lacrosse team. It allowed our wrestling team to compete in a conference and win conference championships. That feeling when you win a championship, there's nothing quite like it. And now our wrestling team has that opportunity. It allowed us to keep automatic qualifiers for sports like field hockey. And that's really important because we need our field hockey team to be able to go on to the national tournament and feel that same heartache we were talking about earlier, that your senior's career ends, in the Elite Eight, one game from the Final Four. You take the AQ away, you're potentially taking that opportunity away. Our men's basketball team has played in the conference championship at Christopher Newport at least 2 times, if not 3 times now. And it's really hard for our student body and the local community to get there. Now, if they play in the conference championship, it's on the road. We can all be there for them and we can be a part of it. So there's so many benefits to everyone with this conference realignment and change. As far as it pertains to lacrosse, it's going to create some really cool regional rivalries, I believe, that don't really exist in the CAC. And it's going to create opportunity for the parents and the folks in our team that potentially could travel to games on a weekday and then still get back to work or whatever for the next day and things like that. So there's some definite geographic advantages to it. And as far as the strength of the league, I'm excited about seeing some new programs and some up and coming programs. And I don't think it was that long ago that, York would have fell in a similar landscape. And that's the other thing is like, this isn't a decision that needs to be determined whether it's a good move to the MAC or not today. It's probably something 10 years from now that we would want to go back and evaluate. And 10 years from now, one of the teams in the MAC that may quote unquote not be one of the top lacrosse programs right now may be a national contender in 10 years. It's happened. So, and I think there's opportunity and there's a lot of good coaches in our league that are working their tails off right now to make that happen. And so I'm excited about it. I certainly miss the CAC and some of the relationships I have with those coaches and some of the, rivalries or whatever. But at the same time, I do believe it is a good move, on both fronts from your college standpoint, the good of the whole, and then from a men's lacrosse standpoint as well.
So the fall is going to be a little different for you this year. Maybe a little bit more segmented, maybe a little bit more individual or small group practices. How important it is to utilize this time? How productive can it be for you to be able to almost in a way kind of be able to go back to basics sometimes with some smaller group stuff? Is that something you look forward to or something you're just going to have to endure?
I do look forward to it. I think it all starts with your mindset. This is what we met about just a minute ago with the team. You're only as productive as like your mindset allows. So like if my day, like on a Saturday, I'm hanging like light fixtures, but I don't want to hang light fixtures, or, I was given the task of light fixtures and something else and something else and something else, and I'm feeling like I'm the victim, then it isn't going to be like the light fixture is not going to look so great when it's up. I'll get it up there and it'll turn on and off if we're lucky, but it isn't going to quite look right. But if I can get myself excited about it and I don't feel like the victim and I can approach this day with enthusiasm and like purpose, and then we can get a lot of great things done. So I am excited about it. I just told the team that with this pandemic thing, everybody's been the victim. Like we have guys on our team that lost their senior year. We have guys that didn't get to go to prom. We have guys that didn't get a graduation. We have kids that, would have been All-Americans that weren't. We had kids that would have played in whatever. We have a team that, feels confidently they could have won the national championship and never had an opportunity to show it. So it's pretty easy right now to feel as though you've fallen victim to it. I've done this. I think I said all the right things for the last 4 or 5 months, but I don't think I was doing all the right things. And so as the expression goes, like, well done is better than well said. And that's my message to the guys now is like, we've kind of like talked the talk. I don't know if we're living it, but this is now it, guys. Like, we're back. And if we approach this fall as though we're a victim, we're not going to accomplish a whole lot. And so I am excited about how some of the changes are going to allow for us to maybe do things differently than we would have otherwise. I think like, if you want me to really nerd out on the lacrosse end of things, like, we've usually spent the majority of our fall practices on being the best team, not necessarily making them the best individual players. And I think some of the kind of I guess you call them like COVID precautionary measures that we're going to take are going to eliminate some of what we could do as a team to make us a better team, but then allow a lot more opportunity to make them each better players. And I think I take advantage of the fact that we have a lot of sacrificial guys that are willing to be role players and are willing to be the other team's scout guys and just accept their role and try to be the best of their role. I feel more blessed than any coach in the country when it comes to that. And so I guess I take advantage of it. And so sometimes I probably don't coach them enough to be better players. I coach them enough to be a better part of their role in our team. And I don't know that I've always found the right balance. And I think this is going to force me to find the right balance there and could potentially change me as a coach for the better, for the long run. And so I'm kind of excited about, I am excited about it. I think the reason I threw kinda in is because I think the verdict's still out, whether the York lacrosse team still has the mindset of being a victim or if we're ready to put that behind us and achieve things through a pandemic instead of just getting by.
Crazy times. Well, Coach, thanks for joining us today. A lot of insight. Really enjoyed it. Look forward to seeing you and your guys out on the field, even if it's just for practice this fall. It'll be great to see them and great to see them around campus. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I appreciate you doing all of these. It's been fun to watch them. And absolutely all my pleasure, Scott. Thanks.
All right. Have a great day.
Yep, see ya.
We would like to thank Coach Giles for joining us today. Certainly an insightful interview talking about his culture and the things that drive the York College men's lacrosse program. Great to also talk about his family and what he was able to do during quarantine. We will be back later this week with Spartan lacrosse player Noah Bruno, so be sure to join us then. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and go Spartans.